Hello, I'm Terry David Mulligan, and this is Mulligan Stew Podcast, music, film, food, and wine. The film stories are coming. There's 2, possibly 3. I'm working on a third that's a doozy. The first one will be Where's My Roy Cohn, a documentary about a nasty individual who happened to be one of the most powerful lawyers in New York City. In the 50s, he was the right-hand man of Joe McCarthy and his witch hunts in Congress. He then went on to his own dark career, and he taught well. He was a mentor to several people who liked what he did and how he put fear in the hearts of people. One of his greatest pupils was a young real estate agent by the name of Donald Trump. And so what you see today coming from the White House and from the Oval Office literally is a form, a shape of Roy Cohn. So Where's My Roy Cohn is what we're going to be talking about. And the other one is For Sama. Sama is a baby. Now she's 3, but her mother was a citizen journalist in Aleppo. Her father was the only doctor left underneath the streets of Aleppo, looking after some 6,000 injuries. And the film that comes out of it is astonishing, absolutely astonishing. And we'll talk to the young woman who shot and talked to the camera, Wad El-Khatib, her husband, Dr. Hamza El-Khatib, and Edward Watts, the London-based director who put 500 hours of footage together, footage that you can't take your eyes off. You want to look away, but you can't. And it will certainly be up for an Oscar. The third film I'm hoping to get some interviews on is Martin Scorsese's The Irishman, but that's to be determined. Now, this podcast concerns the late Gord Downie, the leader and principal songwriter for the Tragically Hip, who, when he discovered he was going to die of inoperable cancer, did one last tour across the country. And the whole way he talked about Secret Path, the Downie Wenjack Foundation fundraising for reconciliation and making right the wrongs of Canada's First Nations. And so we're going to talk to Kevin Hearn from Bare Naked Ladies for a very specific reason. And we're going to talk to Tom Wilson from Blackie and the Rodeo Kings and Lee Harvey Osmond for very specific reasons, because they're both involved in Secret Path Live tomorrow night at Roy Thompson Hall in Toronto. Here's our conversation. Secret Path Live takes place Sunday, October the 20th at Roy Thompson Hall in Toronto. It's Secret Path Week, October the 17th through 22nd. It's named in honor of a young 12-year-old Ojibwa, Chanie Wenjack, who died trying to get back to his home from an Indian residential school many years ago. Died beside the railway tracks. Almost forgotten, but not anymore. Proceeds from the fundraising will go to the University of Manitoba's National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation. The profile is very high now because Kevin Drew and Gord Downie wrote and recorded Secret Path just before Gord Downie died of cancer. My guests are Tom Wilson, who was one of the singers and, of course, 7 years ago discovered that he was a Mohawk, and the original leader of the Secret Path band, Kevin Hearn from Bare Naked Ladies. The last music that Gord Downie made. Here we go. As promised, I found Kevin Hearn on the phone having his mid-morning tea. His people have brought him the tea. I'm sure is there a ceremony that goes with the tea, Kevin?
A nice walk around my neighborhood, clear my head in the morning, and then, get to work.
It's been 3 years since you were on stage with Gord Downie and the rest of the Secret Path band at Roy Thompson Hall, almost to the day, 3 years to the day. What's happened with this story and this profile and this music and this movement in those 3 years, do you think, Kevin?
Well, from my experience, I actually went with the Downie brothers and Kevin Drew back in February, and we visited some schools that had started teaching the Secret Path in their curriculum. And it was quite amazing to talk to to children about how they felt about learning about this, and it was moving to see that this work is actually making a difference.
And I'll tell you what moves me a lot is that it's now the Downie Wenjack week. It's an entire week. It's not just one day.
Yeah, and I think there's a few shows in other cities as well. I was seeing they're doing a show on, the night before. Well, yeah, on the 18th.
October the 17th through 22nd is the week in particular. Just as an aside, in doing part of my research, I see that the Victoria Royals, the hockey team, have done a Chanie Wenjack goalie mask. A goalie mask. And it's being auctioned off with the story of Chanie on the mask.
I did not know that. That's cool.
You know, that's Canadian history. When you make goalie mask status, you have really achieved something.
Absolutely. It's a meeting of, that's a weird poetic meeting of things right there.
Well, how better to get a message out than to take it into a hockey rink, you know?
Exactly. And that's, something Gord often said is there's more to this country than hockey and donuts. And so to put Chanie's story on a goalie mask, you can read a lot into it.
There's a hashtag that went with the original story, and it was, I guess, Gord, one of the things that he said was hashtag do something. What have we done in those 3 years, you think, Kev?
Well, I think the conversation has continued. I think there's more and more focus and light being shown on the history, the true history of this country and the stories. And I was speaking to Perry Beldegarde, Chief Perry Beldegarde, about the steps to reconciliation. And he said the steps are awareness, education, which leads to understanding, which leads to action. And I think we've made progress on those steps in the last 3 years.
Kevin Hearn on the line was a member, well, of course, Bare Naked Ladies and his own solo career, but was a member of the Secret Path band 3 years ago with Gord Downie on stage. Who else was on stage with you that night, Kevin?
Well, there was the co-creators, producers of the Secret Path record, Kevin Drew and Dave Hamlin on various instruments. And then we had Josh Finlinson from the Sky Diggers, who was one of Gord's best friends, on guitars. Charles Spearin from Broken Social Scene on bass, and me.
And you. And so what's the lineup tomorrow night at the Roy Thompson Hall?
Well, we'll have folks standing in for Gord. We have an amazing lineup of people. It's Buffy Sainte Marie, Tanya Tagaq, William Prince, Serena Ryder, Whitehorse, Sam Roberts, Tom Wilson, and July Talk.
That's a great lineup. That's a great lineup.
Yeah, and then there will also be appearances by some of Gord's Tragically Hip band members. And Chief Perry Beldegarde will be there, and Cree performance artist Laurie Blondeau. And the night will begin with a poem by Chief Stacy LaForme.
There'll be singers and dancers, of course. I'm wondering, could this? That's Roy Thompson Hall. That's the center of a known musical universe. Can it play?
Yeah, just so I won't be dancing. Just I don't want people to be worried. Yeah.
No, we've seen that.
Yeah, we don't want that.
No, we've seen that. I believe it was Detroit. Can this play across? I realize that we're thousands of kilometers removed from your gathering, but how can we play this across the country? All of you are so busy you can't tour it, so to speak. Is there a musical is there something that will tie it all together across the country?
I don't know. Perhaps we have to come out there and do it, Terry. Or perhaps someone out there could stage a similar event without us.
It's a very personal thing, Kevin. We're not just celebrating the Grateful Dead's 50th anniversary. This is a very personal story that touches.
That's true. But there's many, as I've learned on this journey, Chanie's but one of many, many stories. And I'm sure there's a way across the country to connect with our Indigenous brothers and sisters and learn their stories and connect with people we haven't before.
If I can read my own writing, Kevin, proceeds go to the University of Manitoba's National Center for Truth and Reconciliation.
I know it's going into furthering this programming of teaching the story and getting this message into schools and trying to help Indigenous youth have access to education in their own communities. Change.
It's change. Long overdue. I'm going to go talk to Tom Wilson, who, he's going to have a voice up there on that stage.
Oh, he's an amazing part of the Secret Path family now. He's got an amazing story.
He's now connected.
Say hi to Tom for me.
I will do that.
Yes. Okay, Terry. Thanks. Nice to talk to you.
Kevin Hearn, Bare Naked Ladies, and the band leader for the Secret Path band that will be playing tomorrow night, Roy Thompson Hall, for the third year of Secret Path Live. This is Mulligan Stew, the podcast. It's Tom Wilson, Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, his own solo career. He will be appearing on stage tomorrow night at Roy Thompson Hall for the Secret Path Live, honoring Chanie Wenjack. Secret Path Live, year 3. Hashtag do something. He's on the phone from Vancouver, having just completed 2 nights of Tom Petty romance with Steve Dawson. Hello there, Tom.
I like that, Tom Petty romance.
Was there any one Tom Petty album you guys covered, or did you just have tunes?
All of Full Moon Fever.
Okay.
And the second set, we all did songs from various times in his career. I did What Are You Doing in My Life?
And Feel a Whole Lot Better. Did you get all jangly with it?
Very jangly. I'm jangly as it is. For a big guy, I'm getting kind of jangly. My nerves are shot, Terry. So any Bird songs are going to be doing the trick for me.
And then in Toronto at Roy Thompson Hall, the third gathering of Secret Path Live 3 years ago, Tom. 3 years ago. Were you aware of it?
The Secret Path?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, because it was right around the same time that I was writing my book. And I was starting to, the last 7 years I've been speaking about what it's like to suddenly go from being a big Irish guy to being a big Mohawk guy. And it's funny because when Gord stepped forward, Gord went down swinging, man. He went down swinging for on Indigenous issues, and I don't know anybody who, I actually don't know anyone who's there's been nobody that's been brave enough to do that. So that's how Gord went down. So it's up to us to keep that going for this country, for the colonial and the Indigenous world, and for Gord. But I got asked a lot, Terry, that and I got actually told, and it was a discussion, that how come white guy is telling the story of the death of an Indigenous boy. And it was the answer for me was so easy. It was that all voices need to be telling these stories.
Exactly.
This is a hardship and something that this country needs to reconcile and embrace. But it's not going to be done just by one side telling the story. It needs to be told by all people.
By everybody.
Absolutely right. And also, just not to get off topic, but in the same breath, I can say that we are not going to get anywhere by pointing fingers at each other and screaming at each other anymore.
Yeah, it didn't work then. It doesn't work now.
Didn't work then, isn't going to work now. So, I talk. You got to admit, Terry, I'm a guy that is, straddled the line of growing up in the white world and yet being an Indian guy. So I'm learning. I'm 60 years old and I'm still learning. And if a dummy like me can still be learning at 60, I think the rest of the country can probably fall in too.
Now, I know that you will not pass up the opportunity to say something to that audience assembled tomorrow night in Roy Thompson Hall. You got a microphone. You have their undivided attention. This is about reconciliation. Will you speak to that, or do you have something you want to share with us?
I always have something to say. Every show, every time I have a stage and a microphone, I speak positively, and I speak from my heart. I feel that my voice is getting stronger as the years go on, and I calm down a little bit more and more every year. I'm able to articulate what's in my heart. I think the entire story is going to take the spotlight. The music and the story is going to take the spotlight. But my belief is that, once again, I have to reiterate that if we stop pointing fingers and yelling at each other, we can get a lot more done. We have to open up our hearts every day. We have to show love and patience and gratitude and understanding to everybody. Can you imagine if we did that to everybody we met all day long? Everyone that we ran into, the person serving us coffee, the person who's driving our Uber, whatever it is, be gentle and understanding and giving. Can you imagine what a great planet we could turn this into? So we, as individuals, Terry, have the opportunity to be able to do that. And I'm a guy from Hamilton. I grew up there. I'm not a hippie. I'm a coffee and cigarettes guy. I'm not a folkie. I'm a Mohawk. And I have to tell you that if my belief is that we have to restore the faith in our hearts and the love that we have in them, that if we maybe turn off CNN and Fox News and maybe just delete our Twitter app for a little while and give ourselves a chance to restore ourselves, then we might be able to actually go out there and believe it.
There was a time when your only belief was in a left hook.
That's right. That came from my household, but that was the old line. You got two ears and one mouth, so please use them.
Sing your little heart out and speak your mind, speak your piece. Power to truth. On stage at Roy Thompson Hall, and make it the best third year ever. If you didn't already know the voice, well, you should. It's Tom Wilson, Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, his own solo career, his own artwork. He will be appearing on stage tomorrow night at Roy Thompson Hall for the Secret Path Live, honoring Chanie Wenjack. Secret Path Live, Year 3. #do something. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the conversation with Kevin Hearn from Bare Naked Ladies and Tom Wilson from Blackie and the Rodeo Kings. They have their own lives to live, their own careers to see through, but they take time to remember Gord Downie, Chanie Wenjack, and the Downie Wenjack Foundation. All right, coming up on Mulligan Stew Podcast, 2 documentaries that will certainly be up for major awards at the end of the year. Where's My Roy Cohn and For Sama. We also have conversations with Donovan Woods, Larina McKinnon shortly, Harpoonist and the Axe Murderer, Con Brio, and much more. We encourage you to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Google Play, or Apple Podcasts. And thank you for listening.